Hello and welcome to the GXPC Podcast. I am here and I am your host, Skyson. I am joined by my co-hosts, Daydreams of the White Lotus and Cinco Gazer of the Purple Cobras. Today's show will be taking a look at the quarterfinals and the clashes that will lead these teams into the semifinal matches. But before we get into that, let me tell you about our sponsor. We are sponsored by the Games XP, located in Decorah, Iowa. They're a small family-owned business that deal in video, card, and board games. So let me introduce my co-hosts once more. We've got Cinco Gazer, and we've got Daydreams. Say hi, guys.
Hello.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Perfect.
Much appreciated, yes.
Moving forward very quickly into things, we just want to knock these quarters out of the matches. You all watch the quarterfinal matches, I'm sure.
Of course.
TPR, NFG, and Schism are okay. So let's dive right into those, honestly. I'm very interested in discussing little brains on those. So let's go over Team Phoenix Rising and No F's Given. Because that was the first match we got to see. That was a super exciting best of 5. And what did your guys' initial thoughts on the TPR NFG match? Yes. Hit me, Cinco.
Very close. A very unfortunate series from the side of TPR. I really felt like they deserved to win it, especially if anyone's in the know with all the drama that led up to the match. It was a little heartbreaking for them. So,
true. Daydream's thoughts?
I think it was a really good series. I think that it was some champion select issues made it a little bit rougher for some of the teams. Like Phoenix Rising. I don't know some of their champions that they selected in some of the drafts were a little wonky to me, but like overall I think it was a really good series. I think it was it definitely went the distance and entertained us.
True.
That is true, yes.
The entertainment value, it's very high. So going forward, thinking about that, and now that we've seen finally a game set goes all the way to game 5. When you look at a lot of these matches through the normal season, the 2-0s, the occasional upsets into a 2-1, how does the mentality shift for teams like this going into a best of 5 for both TPR, who stuck together as a team of 5, and for NFG switching up into new rosters? How does you have to stick to that mentality going through to a best of 5?
I think that personally, having not played the best of 5 yet, it's just it's an endurance match, right? I think that the more disciplined teams typically are going to have an advantage during these matches. I could just, be talking with no knowledge here, of course. That's definitely a possibility. But I definitely think that the teams that have coaches and discipline are the ones that really benefit from this best of 5 format.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I think that it's a matter of momentum, when you're coming into a game. A team like NFG that just, did a roster swap, brought in these new members, they come into this best of 5, they win the first game. That's a big confidence booster for them. I think that we could have had a completely different series with that game had they had lost that first game. It's all about that momentum. And, the second game, obviously, I believe TPR, they ran it back for the second one. And, it does put a little question mark on your head, but you already won 1, so you can do it. But like if they had lost, they had gone down 2-0, I think it could be a completely different story. And the same thing with the Schism match. It's just a whole big thing of momentum. If you can get your momentum going, you can get your mindset clear, you're going to have a big advantage coming into these kind of marathon games.
That's reasonable. I definitely put a lot of strength into the power of momentum going forward. And you talk about it a lot, even pro scene. Just that first game, just the power you get, both in the pick advantage, the counter pick advantage, just the ability to make that first strike, and in the mentality, it showed a lot. And NFG getting the upper hand, and of course Schism getting the upper hand in the first game, really put both of them in a great advantage there. So let's go a little deeper into the TPR NFG game. Let's talk about the Phoenix Rising side of things. Where do we think, pinpoint for me a couple places that you think that TPR maybe had their shortcomings, didn't quite make it work? Cinco.
Well, of course, the obvious thing to pick on here is Canadian champs kind of play in general and also champion selection. We saw the Shaco come out for quite a few games, and I believe in most of the games, I don't have the stats on me, so this is off of recollection. He had lowest damage to champions. His build paths were very, very questionable. And I feel like he was the biggest detracting factor to the TPR loss. We saw in the fifth and final game, he had Baron stolen away from him, which was the nail in the coffin. I think the game ended like 2 minutes after that happened.
Right.
There were a couple other things. The questionable positioning on Nutrinx's part sometimes. Trying to think of what else I remember. I might go back and look at the VODs a little bit, but Alazkander's decision to not get a Zhonya's or stopwatch very early into the fifth game also contributed to the teamfight loss a little bit. Just a couple a lot of little mistakes that added up into a big loss at the end, really.
Yeah, I think I'd echo that sentiment, actually. I do believe the weakest link, so to speak, for TPR in that series was the jungle, whether it be because of champion select or pathing issues. I mean, I'm not a jungler, so I can't really talk about pathing issues, but I don't think that what he was doing was optimal. But, hey, that might just be me. But I do know bot lane, and I do think that TPR came into that game a little cocky, actually, against that bot lane. Like, I don't think they fully respected them a whole lot, and they were making some execution errors that I don't think they normally do. At least I know that from watching TPR before. So I definitely think there's a little bit of cockiness going into that game. And then, I don't know. Alexander was a little wonky sometimes on those top lane plays. So a little bit of execution errors all around the board for me.
Yeah, I agree. I think that going forward, definitely the Canadian champ sort of jungle really detracted from a lot. And I think that there was a bit of misplaced confidence because, game 2, he picked the Shaco and they won. Game 4, he picked the Shaco and they won. So going into game 5, of course, he just objectively looked at it and said, well, I picked Shaco in both of these winning games, so I picked Shaco and we win. But when you go back and sort of look across the board at what was done, he really didn't, contribute that much, I guess.
If anything, really.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to rail on the guy too much, but the Shaco pick was not good.
Right.
Objectively quite bad, actually.
I definitely agree. And we do see it a lot in TPR games. In TPR games, they played the bot lane very, very forward-playing sort of aggression and just sort of unwarranted cockiness, I guess. And I think that a lot of that came. I mean, TPR came into that set with NFG. They were 2-0 and up. Nutrinx talked a lot about him, being better than Arrow in the bot lane, and we saw a lot of solo kills in the previous TPR NFG matches. But I think that the switch up, and I'm shifting this conversation a little bit, talking now about NFG, especially with the pickup, the pickups that NFG has made to the roster. I mean, it's just been Arrow from the old team. Now they've picked up Hottie Williams, Big Brain from Gents. They picked up Peggy, who was the support on Impulse, now moving to the top lane, and the pickup of Destiny into the support lane, I think just shifts it, especially shifting a lot of the 2v2 in the bot lane, but especially, NFG as a team before all these roster changes was so committed to being a team that played around Arrow. I mean, you had even going back to Slivering Dingus, who played mostly control mages in the mid lane. And I mean, you'd see top laners sort of rotate into the NFG roster that just played, they played their tanks. They would teleport into, a 5v5 when they were needed, but no real standout players on the side of NFG. But sort of the shift to pick up, Peggy in the top lane, playing these bruisers and fighters that command attention, Destiny on more playmaking supports, and Big Brain going for more of damage-oriented mid laners. Does that shift on the NFG team, make them more of a threat? Is it no longer just Arrow and some bodies? Look at it. How does the team dynamic, shift away from Arrow and some people?
I think personally, it's still really just Arrow and some bodies, with the exception of Big Brain. I mean, Hottie just plays the really aggressive early game junglers, tries to snowball. Peggy, I wasn't really impressed with anything he brought to the table. I actually believe that he should have never gotten the opportunity to play Darius in that series. I think that was an extremely bad pick ban error from the side of TPR. Peggy should have never been able to touch that champion. If you had done even the the base research on Pidgey, I mean, Darius is his #1 most played champion in solo queue, 61 played, 61% win rate. The fact that it made it through pick ban 3 times is super questionable. The other top laners that he has in his OP.GG is he played a game of Scion, a game of Jax, and a game of Volibear. So, questionable. As for Destiny, he played really well in that series. He also had a few kind of questionable moments where he stepped up and got punished really hard. I mean, I was impressed with NFG, but I wasn't super impressed. I think that Nutrinx is actually, personally, just as good or even better in AD carry than Arrow is, except for on the Kog'Maw game that wasn't super pleased with that pick. And I think that if TPR had a better jungler, they would have walked away with that series 3-0, 3-1.
Yes.
I mean, I don't want to try to take anything away from NFG's new rosters, but like we just haven't seen them enough. Like obviously we saw them in a 5-game series, so don't like blame me for that because obviously you're like, oh, but we saw them in 5 games, James. What the hell are you talking about? We haven't seen them enough. We haven't. Right. We have not seen them enough to really get a good overall picture on what this NFG lineup is going to actually look like because TPR was not playing at their level. I'm sorry, they just weren't. Nutrinx, all those positional errors, all these weird champion select issues, just not the same TPR that I'm used to seeing. So honestly, I can't really give you what you're looking for in terms of is NFG looking good? Are they looking better than they have been? I think Destiny played well. I think he played. It was obvious he was playing on a new team because he was doing engages that the whole team wasn't really ready for, and he was getting punished, like Cinco said. And I think that Hottie Williams was just kind of doing his early game jungling thing. He wasn't. I obviously wasn't in comm, so I don't really know. But it didn't look like to me that he was really hard communicating these ganks. I think it was kind of just playing by the momentum, like 100%, and trying to do the solo queue strategy of win lane and then snowball. To me, anyway.
Hot takes. I want to say I agree too. I think that TPR definitely did not bring their A game to this series, and I don't want to say I was disappointed, but I think that seeing them as they were, it was not a very suitable set for them, and it didn't work out the way they wanted.
I'll say it for you. I was disappointed.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, it's the same.
But I'm glad I picked your thoughts on that, and I definitely agree that we haven't seen everything from NFG for sure. And seeing the strengths of what they put together, they basically came out good enough to beat that version of TPR. Which that version of TPR going to Game 5, you can say what you want about it, may not have been as optimal as they wanted. I think NFG on their game maybe should have brought that to a cleaner 3-0, 3-1. But that is what we have from NFG, and let's take a look at the other series that we had, which is Schism versus Reign of Kings.
I have a lot to say about this one.
Yeah, see, that one was very much more, that was more clear-cut, for sure. So let's talk about Schism. Let's say going from the Week 10 Schism that, clutched out the tiebreaker game against TPR, and then going forward, the Week 10 Schism that got, 2-0'd by Reign of Kings. Then they win the tiebreaker against Team Phoenix Rising. What changes going into the team as they play against Kings?
They played with the same roster that they played for the tiebreaker game versus TPR. Yeah.
Yeah, it was different. The Reign of Kings roster they played Week 10 was different, and then the one against the tiebreaker is what played against the playoffs.
So we did obviously see the loss of Carmony and Mav. Personally, Gowie, or however you pronounce SKZ's new top laner's name, I think is actually an improvement over Mav. He plays Urgot, so that's already better than Maokai.
Right.
I didn't really see too many impressive things from Tej, the new AD carry. He played the really good Ezreal game, but he was like Goomba stomping people with Tristana and then dying. So I think that Carmony was probably the better AD carry. It kind of sucks that they lost him because, we did see games from Carmony earlier in the series where he would like walk away with like 20 kills, 20 and 0 on Jhin and stuff like that. So I kind of got a feel for Backpack having to adapt to a new AD carry this late in the series.
That's fair. Daydreams?
First of all, shout out to Beelan on the chat, by the way. But no, like, I agree. Like, I think Schism, I don't know. It feels like they're putting pieces together, hoping that they're going to fit the puzzle in. And like Cinco said, I 100% guarantee that Gowie is a improvement over Mav. I think Mav was a good top lane player for the likes of the Dylan Godyear combination. I think that he was a perfect kind of top laner for that style, but not for the style that they've seemed to be playing now with Steven Ader and oh god, my brain, the new jungler for Schism, I forget his name. I'm sorry.
No excuse.
Thank you. No excuse. With that style now, I think that he's a much better top laner for that style. So I think that 100% a good pickup there and a good change. With the whole Carmony thing, I don't know. I think T could surprise people. I think that, yes, his Tristana game wasn't exactly what you want to see as an ADC, jumping in. But you got to remember, this is a new team. This is brand new. They're just playing with each other. So he could just have that I want to make a play kind of attitude. So I don't know. I think that he's still a good ADC. You could see in the Ezreal game, he knows how to position. He knows how to at least kite. And he's always going to do his job. I don't think he's ever going to lose Schism the game. So I don't know. I think that I think they had some good moves, and they're still just trying to piece the puzzle together.
I have a lot of different takes, I guess, from what I saw. I think it's interesting, and you talk a little bit about Carmony and what they had. And I think that the interesting thing about Schism now is the way that they've shifted the roster has sort of shifted the burden of responsibility. Because you saw when Carmony came into the scene. You saw when Carmony got on Schism, and he was just putting out games. He was putting out, almost single-handedly putting out victory. Carmony Backpack bot lane was just, undefeated for a long time. The source of wins, the Steven Ader was just playing Zillion every game, playing tanky and Zillion and just kind of doing his job, keeping him alive. But you started to see more, even, in the middle of the Carmony era, and then moving to Tej. Steven Ader is really stepping up as a mid, I think. He's definitely expanded his pool a little bit out. I mean, people are still respect banning Zillion because he's been a Zillion player that's been doing work on the champion. But I think that we've seen him on Akali, we've seen him on sort of these damaged mid laners that he's getting in there doing more than his job, and he's becoming working himself into being a carry mid laner. I think, and I think that that's important if you bring in if you're shifting to Tej as your AD carry. And Tej is just, consistent. He's never going to, pop off and be a crazy. I mean, I'm not going to say never, because, he has the potential. Anybody has the potential to. But if you're seeing Tej do his job as AD carry, and Backpack's going to support him and do what he can for the team, I think that Steven Ader, moving to more of a carry role and being a lot more prevalent on the team as a carry, it goes very well hand in hand with No Excuse, who I think also deserves a good amount of merit, because I think No Excuse has put out incredible performances since he's joined. He was very pivotal to the win against the TPR in the tiebreaker. And I think that most of the games that, were on the back of what were happening. And I mean, you talk a lot about Reign of Kings. I mean, even Reign of Kings, you talk about the strength of a Jot and the strength of their jungler is sort of, their go-to. And, his early plays, the way they work. So I think that No Excuse really showed that he is, a jungler that can compete. So I on top of, with Goey in the top to replace Mav and playing a little bit more, a little bit better, not a little bit better than Mav, but doing a different sort of job, a different skill set is what he brought. Mav was definitely, the protector in top lane, had the split push down, did what was needed of him. Goey, has a little bit of that ability to go above and beyond. So I think with Goey and Tej both being, doing their job in their respective lanes, gives Steven Ader the ability to, go a little bit forward and say, hey, I can play some more damage oriented. I don't have to be the utility guy anymore. I can open up with No Excuse, and the two of us can go on rampages and games together. And I think that works out for Schism. And I think that's what we saw in the Reign of Kings match. So, going back that a little bit from there, what happened to Reign of Kings? Do we think here? Do we think it was just a Jot got out jungle, better jungle wins GG?
I got this one.
Hit me, Daydreams.
Ban Urgot. Okay, hang on. No, but seriously. Seriously, ban Urgot for one. That is legitimately, I don't know why you would continue giving that champion away and pick ban like that. Blew my mind, that entire series. But also not respecting the Kindred, not respecting just so many picks from Schism, just giving them away, saying, yeah, no, don't worry, just play it. We'll be fine. We got this. And then you get stomped. So obviously there's a problem with these champions that you need to maybe respect them and pick ban and say, okay, this guy knows how to play this champion. Like, hey, we let Steven Ader Zillion through. That probably wasn't a good idea. Just so many pick ban errors I felt from Reign of Kings in that entire 5 games or that entire series. Sorry, and not only that, but like you said, No Excuse really stepping up and proving that Ajat can be controlled in the jungle in the early game, and not allowing him to get these early game plays to snowball his lanes. I think that was another big thing that helped Schism win that series.
I largely echo those sentiments. I will say, though, that I was, while No Excuse was a total monster on the Kindred, I was extremely unimpressed with the Xin Zhao game. It just looked not great. And Ajat did almost tear that game open and win them one of those games. So I would say that on the topic of No Excuse, the fact that they didn't ban Kindred after they got ripped apart in the first game, and I believe that it was actually open for the second game too. It just wasn't picked, and then it wasn't banned for the third game, so they picked it again, and it was just like a repeat of the first game. Although I will say, we did see a lot of unfortunate, like besides for ROK's really just awful pick ban phase, and you know, let's not sugarcoat it. It was terrible. Really, really bad. But besides that, we saw a lot of unfortunate things happen. Obviously, we saw the huge role swap in the first game. A lot of really confusing things happening because Nezmi wasn't there for the start of the series. So you kind of got to question whether it would have been a totally different series if they had had full roster for that. You could probably argue either way. I'm not here to do that. And then Asadeus' many internet issues in the third game. I would actually argue that the internet issues cost them bot lane in the third game, which would have probably swung the tide of that game because Asadeus was on his Ezreal. So it sucks, but you know it kind of got to roll with the punches, and they just didn't roll well enough.
I agree.
Nope, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're right. I think pick bans was definitely a major downfall for them. And I think that while, you know, you put a lot in the hands of Reign of Kings, and I think that a lot of the series they played, we saw it in the Purple Cobras match, we saw it in the NFG games they played, just their pick ban phases have always, specifically their bans, have always just kind of been not a very focal point for them. It feels like they're not a very well-researched team when it came to, you know, looking up their opponents and figuring out, you know, where they wanted to put their bans. And I mean, I guess we saw it in both sets, really. Both sets are just had some really questionable bans across the board. And I agree. I was going all the way back, letting Pidgey get a hold of Darius for 3 of those 5 games was absolutely unacceptable. And you know, moving forward, the Urgot and Kindred not being banned was just super questionable.
I can't understand how you would give Schism their god comp. Like, it literally is what you gave them in Game 3. You know, you gave them Shen, Kindred, Zillion, Jin, and Tahm Kench. Like, hello? Like, how do you let that happen in a pick ban? That's just it's actually insane to me to think about. It's just ridiculous.
And the fact that it took them 3 games to finally ban Urgot. I mean, it was a sneak pick the first game because Goey only had like 1 game of Urgot in his match history. So, you know, they slid by on that one. They were like, hey, guess what? We play Urgot, you know, what's up? But the fact that they played it the second game too, I mean, just look at, I mean, I hate to reference like actual pro play in this because I feel like a lot of the times, especially at this sort of ranking, comfort picks can overcome sheer champion strength if people are inexperienced on like the really the power meta picks. But Urgot and Aatrox are like almost 100% pick ban in Worlds right now. They are so absurdly strong. The fact that it went through the second game is, I mean, I love you, ROK, but what are you guys doing?
It's fair. I echo the sentiments a lot. I really think that it just was an unfortunate pick ban phase for ROK, and then compounded with the the problems that they met in the middle of the games between the DCs, the roster not having. It was really just a lot of unfortunate and a lot of not good decisions. Really, just threw ROK out of there, and I think that they got the ability to walk over a lot of the 2-0 series that they had coming into playoffs, off the back of just playing better. And I think that Ajat finally meeting his match in the jungle was also, sort of the nail in the coffin. No excuse saying, hey, you can't just win level 2. It's not free anymore. And, we just saw him kind of crumble after that. But going forward, now I want to move this along a little quicker. We're going to talk a little bit about the semifinal matches now. And my rule of thumb here is you're not allowed to talk about your own team. So we're going to talk about No F's Given versus White Lotus. And I'm going to rebound that with Cinco Gazer here. So run me through that one. Run me through what this match is going to look like. Show me, what are your thoughts on the NFG White Lotus matchup? Give me those initial thoughts, Cinco Gazer.
All right, do you want like prediction, score prediction first?
No, prediction last.
Okay, prediction last. All right. I think White Lotus definitely has the advantage. I believe that Fuji is probably better than Big Brain Mid on a lot of his comfort champions. And the mid lane matchup, I think, will be a question of can they throw enough bans mid lane to force Fuji off his comfort picks? Because Fuji doesn't always perform. He's been very consistent. He's very good on his assassin-esque champions and I believe the Orianna, but he doesn't always perform amazingly when forced off the comfort picks. And Big Brain Mid, I think, is going to be a very integral part of the series because he also has kind of a large champion pool. So I feel like if they can give him a favorable matchup in the mid lane, it can swing maybe a game or two. Top lane, I think Burger is going to decimate Pidgey. Because I don't think that Pidgey is a top laner, and I think that Burger is the best lane phase top laner in the league. Handedly, I think. I think the bot lane easily goes to Ethereal and Daydreams. I don't think Arrow has had enough time to practice with Destiny, and I think that Ethereal is a better AD carry. Jungle matchup could go either way. It remains to be seen whether Hadi is going to be able to take the advantage over Kairos just through his sheer early game aggression. I think that's definitely a possibility. But Kairos can do he's got some fancy feet. He can make some plays happen, so it's a toss-up between the two. And that's just for matchups. I think the featured matchup, of course, definitely the bot lane. I mean, Arrow's got kind of a big mouth, so I'm sure he's kind of looking forward to this match with Ethereal. That's probably going to be the lane to watch. I guarantee you almost all the action in the game is going to happen around bot lane. So, I think that the best of 5 is definitely going to test NFG here. I don't know if they have a coach. I don't believe so. But we saw even in the TPR series they were extremely inconsistent. TPR playing and what I believe was their worst almost took the series from them. And I believe that White Lotus's discipline cracks the series open 3-1.
Gotcha. All right, Daydreams, I will allow you one sentence about the NFC White Lotus match and your prediction.
It's going to be spicy.
Prediction? No more words, just prediction.
3-1.
All right. Lotus. All right, that's all we got from that. And I definitely wanted to hear Singazer. I echo a lot of the thoughts. I think that definitely across the board, I think the mid lane matchup is going to be very interesting. I think Fuji and Big Brain both have a very wide champion pool to fight with. If they both get to flex all their picks, pick ban phase will be very important for both sides. I think Fresh Burger will probably crack Pidgey open if they don't let Darius through, which would be weird if they do. And bot lane, I think, will be a lot of where we're going to watch this happen, but I think that Ethereal Dangers are going to walk away with it. Anyway, moving on. We're going to go to Schism Purple Cobras next. So again, Cinco, not allowed to talk about your team till the very end. So we're going to see, with Daydreams, what are we looking here at Schism versus Purple Cobras? Run me through what you believe that matchup's going to look like, Daydreams.
All right, I'm actually just going to steal Cinco Gazer's entire format of running through these matchups first.
I liked it. That was pretty good.
Yeah, it was good. So thanks. So yeah, the top lane, like 100%. Like I can't not give it to Cinco. Like I can't. It's just he's too good. Like he's not even a top lane main. He's gonna roll over the top lane, I believe. But in terms of the jungle, like that whole top side of the map, actually, for Purple Cobras is just so good. Like just so good. They make so much happen. They get so many leads for the team. Like Frisian, Friction, and Cinco. Like those three are just gargantuans of that top lane area, like that whole top side of the map. So like I feel like most of the advantages that's going to be given is going to be through that. But then you take it to the bot lane, and I think that the way that Schism plays the game right now, just based on what I've seen so far, is that Backpack and Tej aren't exactly like playmakers. They're not going to try to stomp the lane. They're going to try to go even. They're going to try to scale up. So I don't foresee them really killing Tomato Farmer and Desolate Earth. So with that being said, I mean, I think I got to give every single lane right now for Purple Cobras. With that being said, I would 100% give that a 3-0 for Purple Cobras right now, just based on everything I've seen so far from Purple Cobras and what I've seen little of from Schism. So it's a little bit of a swayed vote, I would say, because I haven't seen enough of the new Schism roster, and they might surprise me. They might, No Excuse might pop off. I don't really know, but overall, I think the way that Purple Cobras plays the map in that top side area and then lets Desolate Earth and Tomato Farmer just kind of go ham in the bot lane is just going to be too much for Schism to handle.
I feel it. And I forgot to mention earlier, I also agree. I echo a 3-0 for White Lotus, personally in that set. But I think that the interesting thing for this match, the Schism Purple Cobras match, I think the interesting thing will be the jungle matchup, actually. I think that putting No Excuse in another matchup where he has, and while I will not say that I think that, I'm not taking anything away from Friction, because I think Friction is an incredible jungler. But I think that the strength that we've seen from Purple Cobras, which is more consistently through their laners, I think that of the players on Purple Cobras that we see in some of their losses, some of their individual shaky games, I think that a lot of it comes down to Friction having not so great presence from the jungle. So I think that if No Excuse wants to capitalize on windows like that through outplaying in the jungle, I think that that is going to be Schism's huge way to try to contribute here. And I think that Stevenator versus Friction is going to be a very interesting mid lane matchup as well. I don't know who I would give that one to, honestly. I know we've seen great plays from Friction. We've seen a lot of stepping up from Stevenator recently. But I definitely agree on the other thing. I think Tomato Farmer and Desolate Earth aren't going to be killed in the bot lane. And I think that Desolate Earth is one of the best team fighting supports in this league. So I think that trying to outscale them and outplay them in fights is not going to work out for them. And at the same time, I think Single Gazer is going to just murder Gowie. But, it's interesting because I think that Cinco very often will play a style where he will try to establish lane dominance. And I think that Gowie has a very, reserved style that I think he'll try to do what he can to, not feed in the top lane. And if he's playing, some of those tanks, because we've seen a lot of matchups where, Cinco will pick the more aggressive type top laners into the tanky matchups, and, they'll try their best to, be the burger and just try to stick up in the top lane, farm up and say, you know what, I'll hand over some of this CS. You're not going to kill me. That's fine, but I'm still going to be able to do my job. So I think that Schism has ways to combat the Purple Cobra style, but I think that a lot of it is going to be on the back of No Excuse. And seeing how he performs in this match is going to be very important. And I think that being backed up by Stevenator, I think that the mid-jungle matchup is going to be very important for this matchup. So I think that I am going to see a 3-1 Purple Cobras is what I'm going to record. But I will not be blown away surprised if I see Schism starting to run with the set because I think they have the potential to make something happen out of the jungle. Those are my thoughts. Cinco, you get one sentence and your prediction.
Ban Kindred, we 3-1.
All right. So that one's that. So we've got our predictions for semis, and we're getting close to the last couple minutes. So we've got some people in chat. You know, we've got Cinco Gazer from Purple Cobras here. We've got Daedrins the White Lotus here. We are open up to questions from the audience here. I will pick a couple before we wrap things up. If you have any additional thoughts here, Cinco or Daydreams, feel free to let them be known. I think we got wrapped up the quarters, dropped our ideas on semis, and really I'm looking forward to these games.
I just want to shout out everybody in chat. Thanks for showing up and watching the podcast. We appreciate it. Also, Rengar Gank.
I would.
Oh yeah! Don't forget these podcasts. We are going to be having them broadcast, or I'm sorry, would be repurposed onto iTunes. You can find them there, and you can also find me getting ganked by my cat on iTunes, maybe. But make sure you get those there. And so we got an interesting one here. Will NFG pick up more players during playoffs / locked rosters, like how they did with Destiny / players? I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it will. I don't think we'll have to worry about that. I think that the interesting thing, I think they've actually locked a pretty good roster. I think that if we can see Peggy, playing more top laners than Darius to secure himself as, a top laner that can do his job, I think that Big Brain Mid is a very interesting pool and it definitely brings a little bit of diversity to NFG that they finally needed. Hottie Williams is very good at looking for those early plays that the team, sort of desperately needs. Arrow is not always the type that needs to just scale into late and try to play better. If they're a team that, can make some early advantages that work out. And I think that Destiny is an incredible pickup for the team, just in general as a support. Oh, since everyone's predicted PPC and White Lotus winning, who do we think will take the finals? I don't want to say that one. I think that's safe for another week. We have another podcast heading into the finals week. Very interesting for that one. Ooh, based on your predictions of semis, predictions for the third place match. Think about that one. Let's talk about that one real quick. We got that one. Let's assume that it's TPR versus Schism. Talk about that one for third place.
NFG versus Schism.
NFG versus Schism, yeah.
I didn't Daydreams. You want to open up on this one?
Oh man. So, hang on. Let me get my thoughts collected here. I know now why you want me to go first. No, I think that Schism. I think Schism could take NFG at the moment. Again, this two completely new rosters. I haven't really seen a whole lot of play from either one, but I would give it a 3-2 to Schism, actually.
I would probably give 3-1 Schism. I think jungle difference really is probably what I would chalk it up to. Plus, I think that actually neither of their top laners are actually top laners like myself. So I'd probably 3-1 Schism. I think personally, if SKZ might beat Purple Cobras, NFG might beat White Lotus. That might not be a third place match, but that's just my opinion.
That's fair. Yeah, definitely. Looking forward if we get both the semis played this week and get on the next podcast to talk about the finals. We'll discuss that third place match, of course. I personally think if we have an NFG Schism third place match, I think NFG will take it in a 3-2. I think that the difference will come from the bot lane, and I think that Big Brain versus Stevenator is another interesting match where both have the ability to play utility and damage-oriented mid laners. I think the top lane match is very even, and I think the jungle difference, while in the favor of Schism, I think that something about the way that Hottie plays, I think, will definitely help pull them ahead on top of the bot lane difference that I think is decently in NFG's favor. So putting it forward, I think that it'll be a 3-2 for NFG. Those are my personal thoughts. But looking at that, I believe that is all we have. So once again, thank you for joining me, Cinco Gazer and Daydreams.
Thanks for having us.
Yes, sir.
That was fun cast, and that's how it's going to be looking forward. We have both of those semifinals. We have No F's Given versus White Lotus and Purple Cobras versus Schism Esports. Should be played this week. Times to be determined. I'll be looking forward to those. May or may not be casting. We'll see what goes on. And with that being said, thank you for joining us on the Games XP podcast, and I'll catch you guys next week.